Welcome back, everybody, to the Mystical Rebel channel. Wherever you're watching it, YouTube, Skool, Patreon, wherever you guys are watching this, welcome back to my channel. And we're back with another reaction. And in this video, we're going to be reacting to Led Zeppelin, Crowley, and the Occult Conspiracy. Now, this is from ETP Clips. This is 7 days old, so about a week old, so relatively, new, recent, fresh. It's not something that's 6 months old, a year old. Relatively new, and we're going to go ahead and react to it. It's got about 10K views here, and so you guys know how I feel about these sorts of occult conspiracies. It's coming from 9 times out of 10 Christians, and people who don't study anything from the occult, people who don't get any legitimate information from any sort of legitimate or verifiable source within the occult. And we can see that from these comments, right? People saying Lucifer was the angel of music, so this makes sense. That's not true, right? That's a Protestant invention. There is no evidence that Lucifer was the angel of music. Where in any Judaic or ancient Christian lore does it say this, right? This just seems to be like a modern day verbal add-on, right? This is not written anywhere, and Christianity is not an oral tradition. It's not a verbal tradition. It's written down. And where is that written, right? Let's see. I can't take anyone seriously who likes Tool. They say that Barbara Bush is Crowley's daughter. She looks just like him. No, guys, there are people in the world that are going to look like other people in the world, right? There's only so many facial structures and things like that that can be made naturally, and there's bound to be people who resemble each other. It doesn't mean anything satanic, anything. I mean, you can go right now on YouTube right now and just type in celebrity doppelgangers, and you'll find a bunch of people on YouTube, or a bunch of YouTubers who found these doppelgangers and are interviewing them or whatever. It's not some demonic or some satanic thing. People look like other people. It's not like the human race has only so many variations, right? There's bound to be people out there that are going to look similar to someone else. That's not an indication of anything demonic or satanic, right? These comments just prove how ridiculous people are. But let's go ahead and let's get into it. I think this is from Godlike Productions. Well, I know it says ETP Clips. I don't know who that is. Oh, sorry, it's I said Godlike Productions. It's End Time Productions. Godlike Productions is that forum. It's End Time Productions, which is they're a pretty old YouTube channel. They were around back when YouTube was first like coming out. But let's go ahead and let's dive right into it. Let's get right into this. Led Zeppelin's secret occult message revealed. Oh my goodness. So we got Led Zeppelin, Crowley, and the occult conspiracy. They always tie it back to Crowley for some reason, which makes no sense. But we will get into that as we get into the video. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Led Zeppelin, Crowley, and the occult conspiracy from End Time Productions.
I don't know if it's the first one or not, but on one of the vinyl pressings of Led Zeppelin album, maybe it's the third one. Yeah, it's the third one. The phrase "Do as thou wilt" was inscribed on the record itself. So this is ritual, putting these words on the record that went out to the masses, spread around the world.
That's not a ritual, because, and here's how we can prove that's not a ritual. All he said was putting words on a record and it spreads around the world. Are there not Christian musical groups out there? Don't they do, or are their albums blank? There's no words on the album. It's blank. Words on a product that gets shipped around the world is not magic. And if it is, then Christians are guilty of it too, because the products that End Time Production sells, I'm sure if they sell merch If I were to go on their website, if they, I don't know if they do, but if they do sell merch, I'm sure the t-shirts they sell, the sweaters, the hoodies, the mugs, the custom Bibles or whatever, there's words on them, and those words get shipped around because you got to ship it out to your buying clients. That's like, but see, people don't think like that. They just go, oh, he's right, it is a ritual, it's words on a record that get sent around the world. Christian bands don't do that. Christian musicians don't do that. They don't put words on on a record. They don't put words on an album and then they get shipped around the world. No, they sell blank, empty albums. Stop it. See, Christian conspiracy theorists have this, it's only good for us, it's not good for anyone else. We're allowed to do XYZ and it's okay, it's holy, it's pious, it's whatever. But when anyone else does the exact same thing, it's evil, it's a mockery, it's demonic, it's, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. And who cares that Crowley or that there was "Do What Thou Wilt" on the cover, right? You don't know what that means, but we'll get into that when you bring that up specifically, because I don't want to have to repeat it twice.
And entered the subconscious of the public, of people in general. And guys, these aren't rumors we're talking about. These are literally documented facts. Look it up. You don't believe what I'm saying? Look it up. And the fact of the matter is this: I'm just scratching the surface here, guys. I'm just bringing all this information together in a way that's consumable for people, so you don't have to take.
You are just scratching the surface because you don't know what you're talking about. You're literally, you think that the stuff that you're studying, and I quote that because you're not really studying anything. The stuff that you're studying is so deep and so vast. It's not. You guys are like New Agers. New Agers swear that they're so deep with their spirituality, but in reality, they're in the kiddie pool, right? Instead of going into the ocean of spiritual information and knowledge, they're in the kiddie pool where the water barely goes above their ankles, but they swear they're drowning in spirituality. You're not. You're not drowning. The water barely goes above your ankles. You'd be hard pressed to drown face down in the kiddie pool, right? These guys are the exact same way. They swear everything that they study is so deep. They've got but it's literally the kiddie pool. So when he says he's scratching the surface, he really is. But he and I mean that in two different ways.
These deep dives, but if you want to, they're there. So the thing about musicians in general and popular musicians, a lot of them are involved in the occult.
They're not.
And there's one extremely famous.
Some of them are, and by some I mean probably ones that we can count maybe with our two hands, and that's it, right? Especially in today's world. Rappers, they're not going after the Christians. So, you know, pop stars, they're not going after the Christian audience. So there's no reason to hide that you're a witch. Maybe country stars, right, where the bulk of your audience is conservative and most likely Christian. I can understand someone saying they have to keep their witchcraft under wraps. But your average rapper, your average pop star, rock star, if you're from the UK, Europe, or the US, there's no reason, and probably even Mexico and Central and South America, Australia, there's no reason for you to have to keep your occult beliefs under wraps. No one else does. I've got books that are publicly available right here. Most of these, not all of them, but most of them can be purchased on Amazon. Most of these books, you can walk into your local Barnes and Noble and get them. Your local Books A Million, your local Thrift Books, your local Second and Charles. And if they're sold out at that moment, I'm sure you can put in a request for them to have it ordered and you can come pick it up. This stuff isn't hidden anymore. The occult, while it might mean hidden from a Merriam-Webster dictionary, Oxford dictionary perspective, it's not hidden anymore. So if these books are publicly available, there's no reason for a rapper who, again, the audience that they're going for is not your conservative Christian audience. That's not who they're going for. So why would they need to keep their occult practice a secret? Their biggest audience isn't the middle of Saudi Arabia. So why keep it a secret? Your average pop star, right? They're not trying to cater to Greek Orthodox listeners. They're catering to a young, probably some sort of agnostic American audience. So why keep it a secret? There's no reason for these celebrities to keep their occultism a secret. There's no need to speak in code and symbols and all that other stuff. There's no need when the books themselves are public. That's a big reason why none of this makes any sense. You can literally go get diabolical demonic books publicly. Most of the books that I have up here, the Christians would say are demonic anyway, but most of the books up here are not in any way, shape, or form evil. But I do have a few that are pretty diabolical. But yet I can get them publicly. So there's no reason for the average celebrity, at least again in America. Maybe the Iranian celebrity might have to keep it under wraps, but the average American, British, European celebrity, Canadian, they don't have to keep these things under wraps. So then, if that's the case, where is the evidence that they're practicing this stuff? This a celebrity doing this is not evidence of anything. Where in any occult literature, in any occult book, does it say to do this and that this means some occult thing? Where does it say that? It doesn't, right? Just like if I were to say, oh, Christians believe in eating babies, they believe in unaliving and eating babies. Your first question, or one of your first questions, should be, where are you getting that information? Where does it say that? What Bible are you reading? Well, same question to the conspiracy theorists. Where does it say this? In what occult writing? Saying that it's obvious, saying that it's right in front of your face is not an answer. What occult text, what occult book instructs occultists to do this, or to do this, or to do this, or any of these symbols that you guys swear is occult? Where? I can actually prove, before we even continue, this is why you guys watch me, right? Because I can do shit like this. I can prove that it's not a cult, right? While I do have a few hundred books physically in the occult space, I've got close to 1,000 books. You can see right here, 50 gigs, 50.72 gigs. I've got close to 1,000 books in PDF form, right? We've got books like Symbolism or of Freemasonry or Mystic Masonry and the Greater Mysteries of Antiquity. If anybody wants to say these are Freemason symbols, where in this book is that symbol? Where? What chapter should we look in? Please tell us. What chapter so we can find these symbols? Right? We've got here we go. The Occult Encyclopedia of Magic Squares, which is full of symbols. Which one should we look under to find these symbols that are so evil and demonic? Where is it written? They can't. They can't tell us. They can't say, Rebel, it was written by Aleister Crowley in his book Liber 777 on page whatever. They can't do that. Because they know that I can go, oh, really? It's in Liber 777? Okay, let's pull that up. Right here, Liber 777. And we can go through it, right? But now I'm just using that as an example, right? Obviously, there's nothing in Liber 77 that says any of that. I'm just using that as an example. They know that I can do this. I've done it numerous times. people come on my live stream and they go, "Oh, you don't know about, I don't know." This one girl came in one time talking about how like she lives near Washington D.C. and she's able to go to the Library of Congress, and she's able to uh see all those books, and all because they do have a lot of occult esoteric books that are historic in the Library of Congress. And she's like, "Oh, I get to go there, and I've been reading books about how that they're trying to take down the goddess, the divine feminine, by this masculine religion." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, what books are you reading to like get that?" And then she tried to get smug with it. "Oh, well, if you're so smart and you're so experienced, then surely you know about Eliphas Levi." And I was like, "Yes, I'm very familiar with it." "Well, then you would know, in his book he said that. He said blah blah blah. I just read it the other day, blah blah." And I'm like, "Well, okay." And I did exactly that. I pulled up my Google Drive, and I'm like, "Well, I have pretty much everything Eliphas Levi wrote. What book is it?" And let's go find it. "Oh, well," and then that's when she started stuttering and stammering, and she didn't have any answers after that because she's bullshitting. Right? Everyone expects me to be like them, where I don't have my foundation, I don't have my sources, I can't back anything up. And so when they just say things, they're not expecting me to go prove it. And then me having the proof on my side, being able to pull it up, they're not expecting that. And they get stuck. But long story to say, where in any of our writings is any of this stuff that End Time Productions is saying? But let's get back to the video.
Famous modern musician who is regarded as like the best drummer of all time. His fans call him the best drummer of all time. Even like non-fans call him the best drummer in our time, right? Comparing him to the greats. By all accounts, he's one of the best drummers ever to live. And this man, he embodies this thelemic tradition, this thelemic ideology more than anybody. And it's overt too. He's not hiding it. His name, Danny Carey, and he's a drummer for the band Tool. And fun fact, guys.
Funny, he does this more. I mean, I don't know about Tool. I mean, I know about Tool, but I've heard of them, but I'm not into rock music or anything like that. So while I've heard of the band, I don't know anything about them. Never heard any of their music, and if I have in like a movie or a TV show, I wouldn't know that it was Tool. Or anything like that. But I love how they make these like grandiose statements. This is just an aside. This is not a real issue. This is just an aside. They make these grandiose statements like, he's the biggest Thelemite, than anybody, bigger than actual Thelemites, bigger than like Alon Milo Duquette, right? I believe the current leader of Thelema. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't care for Thelema. I'm not knocking Thelema. I'm not putting it down. It is a legitimate system. It is a legitimate path within occultism. So I'm not going to speak down on it, but I am not into it. I don't care for it or care for any of the things that it teaches or anything like that. So I don't keep up with it. I have a lot of what Crowley wrote, but I'm not into Crowley. I'm not into Thelema. So let me get that out there. So I don't currently know, but from when I was last looking into it in any way, shape, or form, Lon Milo Duquette was the current leader or whatever of the movement, of the religion, the church, whatever. So like he's like, "Oh, this one drummer, this celebrity is the biggest Thelemite," and I'm like, that's like me saying some celebrity Catholic is like the biggest Catholic. It's like bigger than the Pope, like bigger than the Cardinals. Like I don't know. That was stupid. It was just a little. It's just like it's the little things that these guys do that like really really pisses me off. It really grinds my gears.
Maybe not fun fact. So I used to be the biggest Tool fan, like obsessed, obsessed, obsessed. I seen Tool in live in concert, I think like 7 times. I saw his Maynard's other band, Perfect Circle, 3 or 4 times. His other band, Pussifer, I think 2 times. I even like came face to face with Maynard. He yelled at me, but that's a story for a different day. But anyway, I was so obsessed with Tool that when I had like every Tool shirt, and I would only wear Tool shirts for a while. And when I was in high school, I had dreads, and I'd wear these Tool shirts. Me and the people I hung out with were like Tool freaks. I used to say all the time that Tool is God. That was a
Smoking
phrase
on
that I used to say, and it's
Amherst
kind of
sour
embarrassing
diesel.
now. But I was so obsessed with Tool that I thought that they were a god of some sort, like a musical god, like an entity. You know, it was insane. But now that
Sorry, it's
makes
kind of
sense.
blurry.
When you take this information into account, it makes sense why Tool has such a grasp over people. Because the beats, the drum beats, the music in general, it's not just music. There's something behind it. There is a spiritual aspect to it that hooks people subconsciously, that causes people to get this obsession over.
I wouldn't say it's a spiritual aspect. I would say it's an energetic aspect, and energy and things like that can be used in spirituality. But like this is the problem with getting your information from people who don't study this type of spirituality. Obviously, he's a Christian; he studies Christian spirituality. But even that, he's some kind of a Protestant. I don't know exactly what End Time Productions is denomination wise, but it's some sort of modern day Protestantism. They're not Orthodox, they're not Catholic. There's some sort of modern day Protestant, excuse me, not Protestant um, uh, movement. I don't want to say cult, movement or whatever. Um, but yeah, yeah, like come on. Anyway,
The music. And that's by design. And especially if you take into account this whole magical aspect of it that Danny Carey, the drummer, which every song is obviously based around, was so heavily into. So Danny Carey was such a huge Crowley fan, is such a huge Crowley fan. He actually wrote the foreword to one of Crowley's magical practices books. He owns one of the largest collections of Crowley.
so we need to make a clarification here because that makes it seem like he wrote the like as if Crowley was still alive and Crowley wrote a book and asked this guy to write the because that's how it happens in the modern world. 9 times out of 10, when an author wants someone to do a forward, either the author themselves asks the other author, or if it's like if the authors are part of like a big publishing house, maybe their agents or whatever will talk to each other. But for small occult authors, that there's no agents. That doesn't happen. They don't make any money off of these books. Like most occult authors have also a full time job doing something else. Or they have a spouse that's has a good job, or they're independently wealthy, but it's not from selling occult books. Um, so he wrote a forward to one of Crowley's already published books that was getting republished, right? So it's not like Crowley asked him, "Hey," because Crowley is dead and has been dead for I think over 100 years now. So yeah, um, this is not like the way that that's worded. Makes it seem like Crowley asked him, or like Crowley's still around and writing books, and then he put the forward in there because that's how it happens, right? You really don't ever have a dead author and then a modern author writing the because that there's no one that. But this is a republishing of one of Crowley's books that he wrote the forward to.
First editions in the entire world. His drum kit, if you look at the
And how do you know that? I'm quite sure the Thelemic temple or church or whatever you want to call them, they have the most amount of first editions. I'm sure Crowley didn't sell his stuff to random people. I'm sure the church has the biggest. Like, where are you getting these numbers from? We just have to believe you that this drummer has the biggest collection of Crowley first editions ever, and not the church that Crowley founded that's still around.
heads on the drums, they all have these Crowleyan magical symbols embedded on them. So every time he hits that drum, it's like he's doing a ritual. So everything he does in the studio, every
No,
time he
no,
hits
no,
that
no,
drum,
no, 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 no. While it does come from Crowley, that symbol doesn't mean that it's not like a magical symbol in the sense of like it does something like effect wise, right? Let's look up what that symbol is. That's called the unicursal hexagram. The unicursal, there it is right there. Unicursal hexagram. Right there, right? This symbol right here. And let's see what it means. The unicursal hexagram is a six-pointed star that can be drawn in one continuous movement, symbolizing the unity of opposites, the harmonious blending of, and the soul's journey towards enlightenment. Often used in occultism and Aleister Crowley's Thelema, it represents the union of divine earthly energies and the four elements. Not taking your soul, not cursing your children, not giving you, your wife can't bear children, she's barren now, and you're sterile, and all these other curses and afflictions. It has nothing to do with that. Like that's the problem right here. It's easier than ever with AI and stuff like that. And again, if you want to go, oh well, AI can lie and all this other stuff, I bring you back to books like, not Libra 77, but if we go to recent books like the Occult Encyclopedia of Magic Squares, Symbolism of Freemasonry. I think I even have a book of like sigils, I think. Sigil work. What's this? I think this might be it. Yes, right here. A Dictionary of Occult, Hermetic, and Alchemical Sigils and Symbols. Right? 405 pages. Come in here. And this is an old book. This was published, when was this published? In 1981. First published in 1981. This is old. Right? So this isn't trying to be a bestseller. This isn't trying to be cool and hip. Come in here and find the symbols. Look, there's symbols right in the page. But then I think it actually turns into an actual dictionary. Okay, yeah, there we go. We saw some symbols right there. There's symbols, occult symbols, alchemical symbols, right? Find it in here. If you don't believe AI and stuff like that. But it has nothing to do with evil, nothing to do with demons and demonic stuff. It represents the union of divine earthly energies and the four elements. Ooh, so demonic, so satanic, so evil. This is going to condemn your soul to hell for all eternity. Like, does that make any logical sense? Well, we're asking people who don't use logic, so I mean, of course, you know. That's what it means. Has nothing to do with evil, demons. So who cares that that's on his drums? And no, when he's banging the drum, it's not a ritual, because it doesn't mean anything for like affecting people. It's not like it's not like a curse or even a blessing. It's a symbol that it's no different than if he put the cross on his drums. Does that mean that every time he bangs the drums that the love of Jesus is good? Like, that's a ridiculous statement. Ridiculous. But you guys don't think that way because you don't think at all.
Drum, every note that he plays is influenced by the spiritual realm, by this magic, by these magical symbols. What I'm saying about Danny Carey here, how every time you listen to Tool's music, every time you hear his drums, you're hearing a ritual. You're getting some sort of subconscious, like spiritual energy that's embedded in the music. And it's not crazy because Danny Carey himself says this. He has said in interviews that drumming is like a ritual to him. That when they're practicing,
this will be a great point. This will be a great point in this video where you would then insert the audio or insert the clip of him doing that. Not just you saying he said it in interviews. I would love to hear you include that audio, include the clip of him doing it, right? Just like I do with these books. I don't just say these books say these things or don't say these things. I bring it up. I pull it up. Let's read it. Oh, you made a claim that Crowley said this in his book? I'm saying he didn't. One of us is lying. How do we prove it? Bring up the book. You're saying he said this thing in an interview. I don't believe it. Bring up the interview. Now, I don't know which interview he said it in, so I'm not going to sit here and watch a million different interviews of this Tool guy. But you do. You know what interview he said it in. Or even if you don't remember the exact, it'd be easier for you to find it over me finding it. But we're not going to hear it. We're not going to see or hear a clip of this interview. We just have to trust that this guy is not lying.
practicing, it's a ritual. You think it's a coincidence that this band has not only gotten so popular, right, but gotten so popular to a degree where their fans, their true diehard fans, are rabid. They think they're on
Then why didn't Crowley ever reach these heights? Why did Crowley die broke and a drug addict? Why didn't Crowley created this, but he didn't benefit from it? That makes no sense. Crowley died broke and alone as a drug addict. Why didn't he? I mean, I'm not saying he was going to be a pop star or rock star or anything like that, but why didn't he end up? I mean, he was born into a somewhat wealthy family, but he blew all that away on drugs and nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. Normally it's the other way around. The cult leader is the one who's rich, and all the people who follow his ways get sucked into it and give their money and funnel it over and all this other stuff. It seems to be the opposite with Thelema, if what you're saying is true. And why is it only for celebrities? What about Thelemites, actual, you and I, the regular average person who follows Thelema? Why aren't they rich? Why aren't the vast majority of them rich? Why aren't the leaders of Thelema rich? It's only celebrities? Explain that. That doesn't make any sense.
a different level. Tool fans see themselves as like above the rest of the people. They see other regular music as like peasant music, and their
There you go.
music is like kingly
Sorry,
music.
language
They have a
things
whole
there.
weird way about viewing Tool as a band and their music in general. And the band themselves, not just the drummer, they've never shied away from embedding occult symbolism in their music.
I mean, other than maybe the all-seeing eye on this one, I don't know if this could be maybe Hebrew, something that says that this is like Hebrew letters, something like that, but I don't see any other occult symbols here. What does this face skull have to do with, this de-skinned face or whatever, have to do with the occult? Um, Again, maybe the all-seeing eye here, but what does this in the background here have to do with the occult? What does this, I don't even, this mosaic face or whatever have to do with the occult? What does this have to do with the occult? What does this, what, because they're, they might look like Egyptians or something? Like, what does this have to do with the occult? Even if these are supposed to be Egyptians or Sumerian, what does that have to do with the occult, right? What does this have to do with the occult? What does this have to, like, how is this occult symbolism? Like, that's what I'm like. No one's at, everyone just goes, well, he showed these pictures and he says they're not shy from showing their symbolism, so this must be occult symbolism. How? Again, we've got it, like, we've got the books. We've got the books. You can even look at occult encyclopedias, right? You can even look at occult encyclopedias if you don't want to, like, buy different occult books. There's this is the Encyclopedia of Astrology, so this one doesn't count. But we've got the Encyclopedia of Occultism and Parapsychology, Volume 1 right here, Volume 2 down here. We've got the Encyclopedia of Magic and Alchemy. We've got, that's just the vampire encyclopedia. We've got the Encyclopedia of Shamanism. We've got the Magic Squares. We've got the Alchemy Encyclopedia. We've got the Encyclopedia the Element Encyclopedia of Witchcraft. You can look in any of these. They're not going to say what you want them to say. They're not going to have any of these symbols. Why? Because they don't have anything to do with anything. That's why. It's absolutely ridiculous to think otherwise. It has nothing to do with anything. None of these symbols have anything to do with the occult. So,
Music and their work. But it's not just Tool, it's not just the Beatles, it's not just Led Zeppelin. The influence of this cannot be overstated. The infiltration even extends to hip hop. Jay-Z has been photographed wearing his shirt, Do As Thou Will. And
So
Jay-Z is also a high-level occultist by all accounts.
no, he's not.
I can't verify that, but that's...
You can't verify, and at least you admit that. Jesus, at least you admit that. But Your audience didn't hear that. It went through one ear and out the other. They didn't even register what you said there. They heard none of that. I promise you, your audience heard none of that. But glad you can admit that. But Jay-Z is not an occultist. If anything, if Jay-Z has any religion or any spiritual beliefs, it's most likely 5%. As in, he's a 5%er. He's part of the 5% nation. If Jay-Z is part of anything, he's part of the 5% nation. He's part of the nation of gods and earths, which is like an esoteric Muslim thing. He's more associated with them. He's had their jewelry and stuff like that. Just a shirt saying "Do what thou wilt." Come on. He's had more associations with the 5% nation than he has with Thelema. Now, I'm not saying he is a 5%er. I'm saying if he is anything, it would be a 5%er. Not a Thelemite. That's ridiculous.
That's what people say. And then you have people like David Bowie and Ozzy Osbourne who wrote Mr. Crowley. You have obviously like Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails, Lady Gaga.
Do you not understand marketing? Don't you run a YouTube channel? Don't you run a business? Don't you understand marketing? Go talk to your marketing manager or your marketing director or whoever runs your marketing department. Or if you don't have a department for marketing and you hire an outside agency, you know, like a social media marketing agency or whatever, call them. If you're a paying client, you deserve time with them. Get them on the books for a 1 hour meeting. Do a Zoom call for 1 hour and get them to explain how marketing works. Get them to explain how marketing works. Why weren't musicians in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s doing any occult symbolism and all that? Why wasn't it until heavy metal and rock and all that started coming around that we started seeing that? The marketing. This is a Christian nation, whether we want to believe it or not. And so something that goes against that is going to get people's attention. Please understand marketing 101. Where was all this satanic symbolism and all the Illuminati symbolism when Elvis was popular? Little Richard. Where was all the symbolism for the guys before that? Where? We don't have any. You might have little local myths and stories like Robert Johnson and all that. But we don't have any, there's no widespread accusation of a super popular artist, a painter, a sculptor. No one accused Da Vinci of being in league with the demons and the devil and all that other stuff. Where is Picasso's, accusations of being part of the Illuminati? If Picasso was alive today, he would definitely be part of that group. People would say, oh, look at his art. Oh, this is evil. Faces don't look like that. Humans don't look like that. That's demonic. Demons put that in and blah, blah, blah. Where was that back then? It's marketing. It's not real. You can't explain why it just popped up. The conspiracy theories just popped up in the 70s. They didn't exist for the entirety of history before that. They just popped up in the 70s. It's a marketing ploy. Stop it, man.
All of these mainstream artists that are like obsessed with Crowley, obsessed with his philosophy of do as thou will. Read his books, study the magic, perform the rituals. These people, they take it seriously.
Yes, please read his books. Guys, how do you spell his name? There we go. Aleister Crowley. I've got a shit ton of stuff by Crowley. Okay? I've got a lot of Crowley's writings. A lot. And you thought it stopped. It's still loading. It's still loading. Okay? I've got a lot of what Crowley wrote. And I've got other folders here, other subfolders here of more stuff. and other folders up here, right? I've got a lot of what Crowley wrote. So yes, let's read. Like, read. Please tell us, what should we read? What folder should I go into? What should we read in order to see any of this stuff that you're talking about? This is what they don't do. They don't actually do this. Study his books. It's right here. I would love to. Which one says any of that nonsense that you're talking about? Which one? None of these do. Because it's bullshit. It's conspiracy theory, guys. It's like the Epstein files that have been released right now. I promise you, 99% of the audience that's watching these videos about the Epstein files all over the internet, not just YouTube, but TikTok, Instagram, right? Let's say that combined, there's 100 million eyeballs that have watched these various videos. Combined, 100 million eyeballs. I promise you, 99,999,999 of those people did not read any of the Epstein files themselves. They're simply going off of what their favorite YouTuber or their favorite content creator says. They're going off of whatever a Twitter or an X headline says, or a 4chan, or if that's still popular, whatever. They're not actually going into the files themselves, searching things up and reading it for themselves. They're just taking whatever their favorite content creator says is in there, which is not, you shouldn't do that. So by him saying, read the books, do the rituals, do you honestly think your audience, your Christian, or by far and large Christian, or at least Christian leaning, do you think that that audience is going to do any rituals? They might be okay with reading the books, but they're not going to do any of the rituals. But even with that, do you honestly think that they're going to read any of these books? They're not. The video has what, 10,000 views? 10K views? Out of that 10,000, how many do you think went on Google and typed in Aleister Crowley books or Aleister Crowley PDFs and downloaded even one and started reading? How many? I promise you the number is zero. I promise you the number is zero. And he knows that. They're not going to go do reading. They should, but they're not going to.
And if they take it seriously, we should too. Because by all accounts, mainstream music, mainstream society as a whole has not only referenced Crowley, they've embraced him.
No,
They've
they haven't.
embraced his philosophy. They've embraced his philosophy to the point where you almost have to utilize it. If you're a famous musician, you almost have to embrace his philosophy too, because that's probably part of the deal nowadays.
What?
But here's the question that nobody's asking. What happens when
I've asked you a million questions that no one's asking, and you've got no answers. But okay, let's see what you have to say. What happens when? What happens when what?
do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law becomes, let's say, the unconscious operating principle of an entire civilization, as mainstream civilization.
The problem, though, is that you're thinking that do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law means do what you want, and that's not what it means, right? That's not what it means from a thalamic perspective. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law means to discover what your true will is, your purpose on this earth. What is your soul's purpose? Find out what that is. Excuse me, and then do everything in your power to make that a reality. Excuse me. That's what that means. It doesn't mean go and do whatever you want. But you guys wouldn't know that because you don't study anything. You just take whatever it says on the surface. Well, it says right here, do what thou wilt. That's just old English for do whatever you want. Imagine if I just opened the Bible and it just says something and I don't ask for context. I just go, well, it says, smack all the women. So we just got to smack all the women. Instead of me going, well, what does it say before that and after that? Maybe it's, well, if, the women become deranged and they're possessed by demons, then you got to smack all the women. Like, I don't care about any of that. It just says smack all the women, so I'm just going to smack. Like, that's ridiculous. But that's what they're doing. They wouldn't like it if I did it with their religion, but they're okay to do it with everyone else's. Again, it's okay for us to do it, but when anyone else does it, it's evil, it's demonic, it's satanic, blah blah blah.
as a whole. Because have you noticed it? Right? We talked about it in the beginning. People seem angrier lately. They seem upset. They seem like their
They don't. The difference between lately and before 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have the internet. We couldn't see it whenever we wanted. We had to wait for the news to show us something. And you can choose not to watch the news. You can go outside, you can turn the channel. You don't got to hear it unless someone talks to you about it. The internet doesn't allow that anymore. You can go on Twitter with no intention of watching the news and literally see a news and see it right in front of your face. You're not searching it up. You just go to trending, or you just click on news, or even just on your feed. It just comes across because that's what X threw you today. That's the issue. It's people aren't angrier. They're as angry as they've always been. It's just now you have instant access to see the anger whenever you want, or actually whenever they want. You have instant access to it. People have, there's nothing new under the sun. That's from your Bible. There's nothing new under the sun. People aren't angrier. They're as angry as they've always been. People aren't more depressed. They're as depressed as they've always been. It's just now we have ways of exacerbating it further, and people can see it instantly. So
humanity is leaving. And in my opinion, it boils down to this. The philosophical aspect of it is it's what happens when people they embrace this do as thou will lifestyle, this mindset. Because when you just focus on do as thou will, other people become an obstacle. Because your will is
no,
to
that's not what it means. It doesn't mean do whatever you want. It means discover your true purpose. Find out what your true purpose on this earth is. That's your true will. That's will. That's do what that will means. It doesn't mean do what you want. This is why you can't get your information from non-occultists or from people who aren't actually studying the text.
do whatever you want to do. And if that person's in your way, well, then plow them over. Because
See, that's not what it means. It doesn't mean do whatever you want to do. That's not what it means. This is the problem. This is the problem. If I start just making up stuff about what Christianity means, I'd be a bad guy. But you're allowed to make up whatever you want about this.
that person is irrelevant to you. So, whatever happens to them, who cares? That's what people think. Their needs, the other people's needs, other humans, their needs become inconveniences to you because it has
No.
nothing to do with your will. You don't care if this person eats or lives or
That's
has a
not what
place
that
to
means.
live or has a job. You don't care. All you care about is you, your own life, your own progress, and where you're going, right? Who cares?
Where that's not what that means. Where are you getting any of that? That's your own preconceived notions that you're throwing onto it. And you can't do that. If I can't do that with Christianity, then you can't do that with anything else that you want to do it with. You can't just make up your own definitions. That's not what true will is. That's not what do what thou wilt means. Like, that's ridiculous that you think that.
About these strangers you don't know. And again, this is an exact inversion of the Bible. It's an exact opposite of what Jesus Christ taught us when he said, love your neighbor as yourself.
Occultists do love their neighbors as themselves. You don't love your neighbor as yourself, right? You don't love your neighbor as yourself. You try to go and convert your neighbors into doing what you want them to do and whatever. You don't love them to allow them to be able just to do whatever they want, right? You try to get them to do what you want them to do. You don't love your neighbor.
So you have Jesus telling us to love your neighbor as yourself, and you have Crowley saying, don't love your neighbor, do as thou will. That shall be the whole.
When did Crowley say don't love your neighbor? Please point that out. When did Crowley say that? He never said don't love your neighbor, and do what thou wilt does not mean do whatever you want.
Of the law. But for some reason, people listen to him. People embrace him. They embrace his philosophy. And that's not because of who Crowley was, because of he died a heroin addict, miserable. No, most people don't even know who this man was. But his philosophy persists today, not because it came from him, but because it comes from the spirit world, because it comes from the antediluvian world, from the pre-flood world, when that entity from inside the pyramid told him, hey, Here's the book of the law. You're going to write it. It's going to become big. Now this pre-flood antediluvian knowledge is going to...
You believe that? Like, come on. The whole eyewash thing, like, guys, come on. Let's, like, come on. Crowley was known to be a plagiarist. He's, I mean, like, come on. Do we really believe this? Like, you... I don't want to get into a bashing of Thelema type thing, because I'm not here to put down other legitimate occult paths. That's not. I'm here to debunk conspiracy theory. But come on, do we really believe that? Like, stop it.
infiltrate society. And like I said, Jesus told us this exact thing would happen. So yeah, it's not about Crowley. It's about the entities. It's about the spiritual. It's about what happens when these entities use Crowley as a jumping board, as a springboard, so to speak. So I don't think this is just a cultural shift that we're seeing. I don't think that's why people are being weird. I don't think it was an accident. I think this is actually a fruit of the philosophy that has been seeded through art, through music, through pop culture for what, a century now? This was by design. It was planned.
But why now, though? Sure, music and film has become more global, but art has always been a thing. Books have been around since the 15th century, maybe slightly earlier. Like, why wait until media is the way it is now, right? You couldn't put this, you couldn't put your demonic symbolism in paintings. Those paintings are shown in palaces and castles all over the world. Well, at least all over Europe and the UK. All kinds of people would become, would come into contact with it and see it. And I mean, that would be a great way. Put this occult painting up in the Vatican, and thousands of, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions per year, would get exposed to it and see this and get affected by the occult. Why wait till now? Like, why wait till the last 100 years? Why couldn't you have done this in the 1500s or the 1600s, or with art, with books? Come on.
And it's been executed perfectly. And I think the thing that brings this whole thing together is Jesus himself and what he said. And I think the most important thing here that we need to understand...
All right, if the rest of this is going to be preachy, we're not going to watch the rest of it. Then we're here for the conspiracy. I'm not here to put down a religion or anything like that. We're here to debunk conspiracy. So we'll give him a few seconds, but if it seems that he's going to get into like a Christian preach type thing, we can just skip the rest of the video. And I mean, I think we get the gist. I think we understand what he's trying to say. It's all bullshit. It's all asinine. I think I've done a pretty good job of debunking. I think I've done a pretty good job of showing that I have sources that no one else has, or not no one else, but like people in the Christian community don't have, or even if they have access, these aren't. I didn't buy, like, these are books you can get on the internet, right? You can type in Crowley's An Essay on Ontology PDF, right? And this will come up, right? You can type in Crowley, I don't know, what's this? Something about duty. I don't know. Okay, duty. You can type in Crowley duty, right? The Heart of the Master, the Fatherland, Liber, what is that? What's LV? I don't know. Roman numerals that high. What's that, like 40, 48 or something like that? 38, 58, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I've shown that I've got sources, right? I've got these sources that I can show that I'm not BSing. Other people don't have this, right? Other people don't have the books and the stuff to back up what they're saying. But I have the books to debunk them. I've got the experience, the knowledge to debunk them, and we will continue to do so. But we're coming up to about an hour here. I didn't want the video to be this long, but you guys know my commentary. So we're going to see if he's going to preach, and if so, then we'll go ahead and close it out here. But let's see.
Really what Jesus himself said, because Jesus was very specific when he was talking about this. He was talking to his disciples about the end times, about the end of the age, when he said this. He said, but as it was in the days of Noah.
All All right, yeah. So if he's going to start showing Bible verses and stuff like that, I think it's going to get pretty preachy. We're about halfway through the video, or a little more than halfway through the video, anyway. So I think we're good here. You guys get the gist. You know what he's saying. You know what I'm going to say. Um, this is BS. Don't get your information from non-occultists. Please, please, please. Wow, that was a Sabrina Carpenter reference right there. But please, please, please get your information from actual occultists. If you have no desire in practicing the occult yourself, or even really deep diving in like studying like the 3 books of occult philosophy or anything like that, if you have no desire to like dive into anything like that, I always recommend encyclopedias. Occult encyclopedias, like the Encyclopedia of Magic and Alchemy, the Encyclopedia of Astrology, the Encyclopedia of Occultism and Parapsychology, Volume 1 and 2. These, while they're expensive if you want to get the physical copies, so PDF might be the way to go. But while it can be expensive because it's an encyclopedia, so they're educational, so they're expensive, they're not $20 on Amazon, they're like $45. You'll learn a little bit about a lot, so you'll have, it won't go too deep into any one topic. Like, here, let me just give you an example of the magic and alchemy one. It won't go too deep into one topic, but you'll have surface level information about a bunch of different topics. So let me just scroll down here randomly. We'll just stop right there, let it load. Okay, so this is for Franz. Okay, so like Franz Barden has a nice little section. He's got 2.5 pages. Then it goes into Francis Barrett, right? Then it moves on to a bath in alchemy. What is a bath? And then it moves on to Alan Burnett, bilocation, a binding spell, the Black Book, the Black Mass, William Blake. So there's a lot of people mentioned in this one, people from the occult that might not be so popular. Blavatsky, Bloodstone, Jacob Bome. I have a few books by him. The Bornless Ritual, which is from Crowley, or was made popular by Crowley. Giordano Bruno, The Brotherhoods, right? So you'll get a bunch of different topics, and then it moves into C. A bunch of different occult topics, without going too deep into one topic. So use these encyclopedias as a way to study the occult if you don't want to actually buy legitimate occult books, right? If you're scared, or you don't want that energy in the house, or whatever, even though that's not a thing, at least for the mass produced books. There are books that can be inspirited, and I do have a few of those, but the ones that are mass produced that are sold on Amazon, those are done in factories, not in someone's bookbinding press in their garage, so you don't got to worry about that. This is a good way to study the occult without having to spend too much money and time in buying legitimate stuff. But yeah, guys, don't get your information from non-occultists. Learn from actual occultists or actual occult sources, and you'll be able to debunk a lot of these conspiracies yourself. But yeah, that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you for checking out this video. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on TikTok under The Mystical Rebel. Check me out on my Skool community if you're interested in learning magic. Link is in the bio. Yeah, I will catch you guys in the next one. As always, seek the mysteries. Peace.